אתה מסודר, אני מסודרת. להתראות. כל טוב, שבת שלום. חנוכה שמח, להתראות. I would like to explain what is actually the vision of the movement of Nahala settlement movement. Actually, the mission is settlement. We want to continue to settle the land of Israel. When I say we, who is we? Well, when I speak about myself, it is easy for me because I started climbing the mountains of Shomron 40 years ago with the movement of Gush Emunim, that is the movement of the believers. Gush Emunim means the block, but I prefer the word the movement or the big group of Emunim, of the faithful, of the believers. So I started it with Rabbi Levinger and Rabbi Hanan Porat and Rabbi Waldman and Rabbi Druckman and many others who weren't rabbis, like Benny Katzover and Menachem Felix, who is now a rabbi too, and many, many other people. That was 40 years ago. And so I came to Shomron with a few other families in the beginning, and we were first, in the beginning, we were living in little tents, and then in little shacks, and then in little trailers, and then in little, what we called ashkubiot, and then we built homes, and then my children built new hilltops and new gvaot, as they say. So we went through a long, long journey of building the hills of Eretz Israel, the hills of Shomron and the mountains of Yehuda. When I started this journey 40 years ago, the entire Shomron was without any Jewish settlement. There was already the beginning of Kfar Etzion. There was the beginning of Jewish settlement or Jewish community inside the city of Hebron. And there were beginnings in Ramat HaGolan and beginnings in the Gaza area and here and there. But the entire area of Shomron was waiting for Jews to return. So, step by step, settlements were built one after the other, and right now, 250 different communities in which there live 400,000 Jews. 400,000. So when I think of the days when we were just 10 families in tiny tents, I think that I personally have undergone a big, lasting miracle. Now, the terrible destruction of Gush Katif, the Gaza settlements, and 4 communities in the northern part of Shomron was a shock and is still a shock. And it actually affected the narrative of Zionism because it was a blow inflicted on Zionism by Jews, by the Israeli government. I will not go now into all the problems that were created as a result of this terrible destruction, but I do want to go now to the birth of Nahala movement. Rabbi Levinger, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, he addressed me. I am his student, his Talmidah, but he passed away a couple of months ago. He asked me and Benny Katzover and Rabbi Felix and Rabbi Waldman, the other names I mentioned, and Eliakim Etzni, and many, many other people who were active in the settlement movement of Yehuda and Shomron, of Judea and Samaria, to come to Rabbi Levinger's home in Hebron. And indeed, we came to the Levinger family in Avraham Avinu in Hebron. And then Rabbi Levinger said to us, look here, the terrible blow of the destruction of the settlements, of the Jewish settlements in the Gaza area, in Gush Katif, and the northern communities in Tzfon Shomron, in the north of Shomron, can create a ongoing, God forbid, deterioration in the entire Zionistic settlement movement. This is why it should be stopped immediately. And in so many clear words, he said, what we have to do is to build new communities. At that point, with the blow of the destruction in our face, it seemed, first, like, we have to cope with the sorrow, with the tragedy. But Rabbi Levinger said, no, don't get immersed in this tragedy. We have to break out. We have to go to the hills, to go to the mountains. And I remember people asking him, so how many settlements will we build? 20? 10? And others said, like, looking for pity, maybe 3 will be enough. So he said, no less than 5. And then we started this long trail of building new hilltops. Many of them were destroyed by the government, but some of them exist. And I can give you instantly 3 examples how Efrat grew and doubled itself with another 1,700 dunams as a result of persistent ascents to the Eitam 3 hills. You can go to Har Bracha and see the huge vineyards there that were protected by an outpost that Nahala movement built at the edge of the mountain. It is called Sela. And you can go to another place, Givat Ronen, which has another mountain ridge. It's called Givat Ronen, like the new Givat Ronen. These places exist. People often ask me, okay, so all these outposts that Nahala movement, in the beginning we were called Noar Leman Eretz Yisrael, Noar, youth for Eretz Yisrael, and then Ne'emanei, loyalists of Eretz Yisrael. And then we adopted the name Nahala, which means homeland. God gave us Eretz Yisrael as Nahala, as a present, a special present from God to Am Yisrael. So people say to me, what is this? What is all this story with the outposts on the mountains? And many of them were destroyed time and again, but many of them exist. But I want to tell you also another thing, which is a very important in the history of Nahala. There was a plan, and it was publicized. There was a government plan to destroy 26 communities, altogether 2,000 families, in one night. Chief of Staff Ashkenazi supervised an army training of how to it was Ehud Barak as prime minister, and it was so typical of it was typical also of Sharon, the way he did with the Gaza settlements. But Ehud Barak, the way he withdrew from Lebanon in one night, he wanted to put an end to 26 Jewish communities in one night, and he was. And the idea was to fulfill what Ariel Sharon, with lawyer Weiss, wrote a document to the U.S. administration, saying that all the settlements that were built after Sharon's commitment to the Americans, that there wouldn't be any more settlements in Judea and Samaria, all of them will be destroyed by the Israeli government. So at that Nahala people, we were trying to put more and more settlements in the area, so that we will busy the army and the police with taking care of us, rather than have time for Chavat Gilad, Ramat Gilad, Givat HaRoeh, Givat Ronen, and all the other places and that existed already. Now, it's something, well, many of the things that I say, one couldn't say, okay, it's a vision, it's a thought, it's a prayer, but I can refer you to a report of the Israeli civil administration to the Supreme Court. The representative of the Israeli civil administration, had to give an answer to the Supreme Court in Israel, answering a question of Peace Now movement. How come the Israel government did not fulfill its commitment to the to the U.S. administration and didn't destroy the 26 settlements? So the answer was with a report this thick, telling the Supreme Court that as the administration, the Israeli administration, the Israeli civil administration of Yehuda and Shomron, of Judea and Samaria, had to take care of new outposts that popped up on new hills every other day, every other night. So, I mean, you can take this as a legend, but I'm telling you there is a report saying that they had to go to Chomesh, and they had to go to Al Zion, and that they had to go to Ma'oz Esther, and they had to go to Mitzpeh Avichai, and so on and so forth, and then to Sela and to the other places. So the hands were busy with what? Oh boy, that Am Israel wanted to build more communities, more settlements in Eretz Israel. Yes, I take this credit. And well, the one who instructed me was Rabbi Levinger, but I was in charge of all of this, so I'm very much accused by the left in Israel for filling the hands of the army and the police and the government with new settlements. So I know now we come to a point where the left will accuse me and the right will, I hope, praise what I do and what I did, but that was and is the story. But I do not derive satisfaction from combating with the army or with the police or with the government, because I've always said, and I say now, that my dream, not only have I said it, I did it. My dream is to build the land of Israel, not as a result of confrontation with anybody, and not as a result of a murder, or as a result of a terrorist act. I want to build Eretz Israel out of my love for the hills, for the land, for the soil. This is what I want to do, and I've always done it. When I came on Hanukkah to the dark hills of Shomron, I came out of my love for Eretz Israel, and not as a reaction to something. It was the yearning to Eretz Israel that brought me to the hills. And all my years, and I told the people when I was served as a mayor for many years and the general secretary of the Gush Emuniv movement, I always said to people, I want to build Eli and Shiloh and Beit El and all the other settlements out of our devotion to the land, out as a continuing result of the promise of God to the people of Israel, that this land is a present that I give to you. And in the 6th day, we got it as a present, like this, the vast area, the major part of the heartland of Eretz Israel in our hands. This is what I did, this is what I want to do. But I did tell how we had to cope with difficulties as well, and some of the communities indeed were built as a result of some terrorist act or a murder or confrontation with the government. But in general, the idea is building the land out of love for the land. And I thank God when I see the same hills that were dark and now I covered with lights, like where my daughters live in Tapuach or in Givat HaRa'el or in new hills in Kedumim where I live. So I say all this was built out of our dedication to the land, and thank God we didn't have to be punished in order to build all these hundreds of communities. Now, the mission of Nahala today is to continue the work, to build more settlements. We are now at the eve of Hanukkah again, 40th anniversary of our first return to the hills. And we are going to ascend to a new hill, the hill of Shalem. It goes very well with the pasuk, with the verse from Sefer Bereshit, Vayavo Yaakov Shalem ir Shechem. Shalem is Shechem. Shalem is whole, and Shechem is whole, and Yerushalayim is whole, and Hebron is chover biyachad, together. So when we speak of Shalem and Shalom, this is the real Shalom, this is the real Mut, this is whole. So this coming Hanukkah we are going to go to that hill, and if you ask me, will the government let you stay there? I pray to God that as we had a miracle 2,000 years ago, and we had a miracle 40 years ago that we are allowed to stay, there will be another miracle, and we will be allowed to stay, and there will not be a conflict. I'm not yearning for any conflict. I do not derive any satisfaction from a conflict. I want to build the land out of love for the land of Israel. Now, it is very important to know that when we speak about the mission of Nahala, you have to understand that as there are many settlements, as I've mentioned, 250 communities, cities like Ariel, like Kiryat Sefer, like Beitar, like Ma'ale Adumim, like Emmanuel, and places like where I live, Kedumim, and Karnei Shomron, and Kiryat Arba, and Eli, and Shiloh, and Beitel, and so on and so forth. So people think that maybe it's enough. So what is the duty of Nahala? What is the mission of Nahala? What is the mission of Nahala? You have so many communities. So you will hear the saying, let's strengthen the existing communities. It's enough. But it's wrong, because Zionism is a phenomenon, it's a movement, it's a dream with which you can never stop until the entire great Israel is in your hands. It's not just between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean, but let me limit myself for a while just to this area. So I want you to know that, God forbid, if we do not continue to build new communities, then the majority part of the area of Judea and Samaria will be taken by the Arabs. And this is a process that is going on now, because there is a settlement freeze. It's not a formal settlement freeze, but under the pressure of the United States and Europe and the Arabs, Prime Minister Netanyahu is very cautious even with giving permit for enlarging the existing settlements. So here I must draw your attention to the specific mission of Nahala settlement movement. We tell the government, we tell the people of Israel, we tell the Jews the world over that with Zionism it is like a car or something going up a hill. When you go up a hill, and this is Zionism, always going up a hill, if you stop, you roll down. You cannot stop where you stop. And this is the mission, this is the role of Nahala, never to stop until we complete the entire goal of Am Israel, the entire mission, the mitzvah to inherit the land of Israel, complete the entire land of Israel. And it's true, it's in face of the beautiful communities that you see everywhere, in Tekoa and in Dotan and wherever you go. One would think, isn't this enough? No. And as we learned from Jewish sages of all generations, and I very often quote Rav Harlap, who was a friend and a a student of Rav Kook, he said that the nations of the world sense the points of strength and the points of weakness of the Jewish people. So when we leave hills bare, and I draw your attention, you see very often settlements in Judea and Samaria, maybe you forget that the majority of the area is not inherited yet, is not settled yet, there are no planting of Jewish vineyards and olive trees and olive groves. If we do not do it, the Arabs do it. And you see it in the area between Jerusalem and Jericho. And you can see it in along the Jordan Valley. And you can see it even where I live, in a hill which we do not take care of. The Arabs plant their trees there. So it's an ongoing battle. So I can assure you that what we do in Nahala with so much effort, and it's not an easy thing, because you have to explain all the time that even to people or in the heart of the settlements, that you cannot be satisfied with your achievement, and you have to see. And this is why what I say to my children and to my grandchildren: you see this hill over there? You see, it was up till yesterday government property. Today, an Arab from a nearby village, he planted a grove there. Notice it. My children are aware of it. Yet the young people of Nahala, with whom I work daily, they are aware of it. Wherever we leave bare without Jewish hands, without Jewish presence, no vacuum. The Arabs come there, and this is our mission, and this is the mission of Nahala, to see to it that every single meter, every single inch of Eretz Israel is taken care of by Jews and not by Arabs, and it's an ongoing mission. And if you ask me if this discourages me, not in the least. I know that just as when you take care of your children, and I will take care of my grandchildren with their mothers, parents of course, and soon, Be'ezrat Hashem, with my great-grandchild, so we have to take care of all the lands of Eretz Israel. We are creating, we are using a few techniques or a few methods in order to make this happen. We have Garinim of Nahala, that is to say groups of 25, 30 young families with little children who have put a goal to settle Har Elisha, and the other one to settle Mitzpeh Avichai, and the other one to settle the northern hills near Tal Menashe, and the other one closer to Ma'ale Adumim. And they, like we are going to do this Hanukkah, they are going there for trips, for afternoon visits, for Shabbat, and slowly, step by step, they get attached to this hill, and step by step the government understands that we are going to be loyal to this hill and we will not leave it. So at times there are conflicts, but after that we are being accepted as a group that belongs to a certain hill, and gradually, as it happened to us 40 years ago with 8 attempts until the government accepted our presence in Kdumim Elon Moreh, so the government will slowly, we hope it will be quickly, but at least slowly will accept the fact that there are more and more Ishuvim all over the area. One of the things that we use in order to enhance Jewish presence in so many hills is land purchase, land redemption, and property redemption in different places. We buy buildings in Hebron and in other places. We buy land, and we will settle all the time, either on land that is owned by the government, what we call government property, what is the government property, or a land that is being purchased as a result of this national kupa, national box for the redemption of land and property in Eretz Israel. If you ask me if this can happen, it happens. It is happening. Now what we want is to see that in every Jewish home, in Israel and the world over, in every Jewish home, every Jewish child will know that he's taking part in the redemption of the land, of the soil of Eretz Israel. I know that the Keren Kayemet, Jewish National Fund, is still active, but is not investing in redeeming land in Yehuda and Shomron, in Judea and Samaria. This is why we said in Nahala movement that we want to see that Am Yisrael is united in its effort to see to it that the heartland of Eretz Israel is being redeemed. I want to tell you that as a child and as a youngster, I was educated by my parents that the land of Israel belongs to Am Yisrael as a result of the promise of God to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, to Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. And then when I grew up and I became involved in the work of building settlements, and I worked hand in hand with Rabbi Levinger, I asked Rabbi Levinger, how come we have to pay the Arabs for property, for land that belongs to us? So Rabbi Levinger told me that he asked Rabbi Tzvi Yehuda Kook, the son of Rav Kook, who was the first rabbi of the settlements in Eretz Israel more than 100 years ago. And Rabbi Tzvi Yehuda Kook, who was also the inspiration for the entire Gush Emonim movement, told Rabbi Levinger, and so I was taught that in Eretz Israel you have to buy again and again and again, and it is never too expensive. There is an expression in the Gemara that ein ona'a lemekarkein. That is to say, you cannot say he was cheating me, he took too much money for this piece of land. No. If he is ready to sell, and the price he says, and you have this sum and you can buy it instantly, do it. So this is what I'm trying to do now, and in many cases with great success, like in Hebron with Beit HaShalom and Beit HaMachpelah and some other buildings that we buy, and also lots of property amongst the Yishuvim and in New Hills. And we will continue this work of land redemption as the fathers of modern Zionism did in Emek Israel, in Emek Hefer, Emek Zvulun, and all over the country. The hills of Judea and Samaria are, on the one hand, the most obvious thing, because my grandparents, they came to the area of Tel Aviv and built Tel Aviv, literally. And then my parents went to Bnei Brak and built Bnei Brak, literally. And now I continue in the footsteps, not only of our forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, but also in the footsteps of my own grandparents and parents. And I go one further up to the hills of Samaria. And my children go even deeper in the area of Samaria and Judea. And so we will continue. So we have a long way to go. Maybe with your help it will be a short way to go. And I'll tell you, I'm here with this explanation at a very specific moment when this coin was produced on the occasion, on the anniversary of the 40th anniversary of Jewish settlement in Shomron. And we can see here Rabbi Levinger and Rabbi Hanan Porat dancing on the shoulders of settlers who were on the shoulders of settlers who were dancing as a result of the announcement of the Israeli government that we can stay in Shomron. That was 40 years ago. Thank God, I can tell you that I was present at this moment. I saw it with my eyes. I was dancing there. Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai. I was dancing, I was taking part in it, and I'm still here. 40 years went by. I had more children, more grandchildren, soon a great-grandchild, Bezrat Hashem, and I will continue the work. Now it was then Gush Emunim movement. What we do in Nahala today is exactly the same work, except that on the basis of the big achievements of hundreds of thousands of Jews that are living today on the mountains, what we have to do is easier. The difficult thing is to explain that never have to stop. And when you don't do the work, God forbid, the Arabs will grab your land. So this is a difficulty, but I can tell you that in many respects it's easier. There is one aspect for which I address every individual do to help us. The world knows that Am Yisrael is strong. And when you see the attacks on the state of Israel today, and the ban, the boycott on products from Judea and Samaria, you have to understand, it's not because we are weak that the world now attacks. The blows that we get, the boycott, the ban, anti-Semitic attacks, are not because Am Yisrael is weak, it's because Am Yisrael is strong. So I don't like to use too much anti-Semitic theories, but the attacks on the state of Israel and on the idea of communities in Judea and Samaria as if we were overlooking some area in the midst of Europe. It's the heart of our homeland. These attacks are one clear sign that we are strong, and maybe there is one last extra effort of nations of the world to stop the big victory of the Jewish nation in the heart of our homeland. But they will know that they will not succeed. Am Yisrael is strong.
הצילני נא, הצילני נא, הצילני נא. כי במקלי עברתי את הירדן, אתה הייתי לשני מחנות. הצילני נא, הצילני נא, הצילני נא. החסדים ומכל האמת שעשית את עבדך. אני קטונתי מכל החסדים ומכל האמת שעשית